Hello there, and welcome to our Wheel and Anchor webinar covering our Scandinavian Capitals Sojourn program. This is a wonderful 2 week program that is going to take us through the principal cities of Denmark with Copenhagen, Stockholm in Sweden, and of course Helsinki in Finland, with a post trip to the city of Tallinn, the capital of Estonia. This is an amazing way to experience countries that have some of the highest living standards in the world. We've had some terrific trips here in the past, so I'm sure you're delighted to hear about what's in store on this trip. So, as I say, this webinar will take about 30 minutes or so. If you are familiar with Wheel and Anchor webinars, if you've watched them regularly before, you can skip ahead to the map and the day-by-day itinerary by using the time markers below. But otherwise, if you're new, if you haven't watched one of our webinars before, I'd encourage you to stick with me for the next couple of slides while I explain a little bit about what Wheel and Anchor is, who we are, and what our version of travel is all about. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's webinar about Scandinavian capital, just a couple of words about who we are. Wheel and Anchor is a community of travelers from all across Canada and a handful of folks that join our trips from other countries. And what brings us together is this like-minded idea of how to travel the world, in the sense of it's embodied in our traveler's creed. It's the way that we look at things, the way that we relate to one another, as well as to the places that we visit, how we desire to learn and grow and expand our understanding of countries around the world. And it's this sort of shared collective vision that we have all in common as members of Wheel and Anchor. And that's really what we're all about. Inside of that, I have a personal mission and a vision, which is that each and every one of our members becomes well traveled and well connected. That's what I'm adamant that I accomplish inside of this whole mission of Wheel and Anchor. And, becoming connected to other people is really a core hallmark of what we do here. Because, sure, we facilitate great trips, but for us, a great trip is not only the amazing things that you see and the new cultures and traditions and all the food and drink that you experiment with and try and you bring back home, but it's also the memories that you share with other people, and that to me is really what resonates with our members and why they keep coming back over and over again. To create these great experiences requires quite a bit of effort, and I am backed up by an amazing team of people. So, just by way of brief introduction, my name is Gordon Drager. I am the founder of Wheel and Anchor. I'm the curator of all the trips that we do here. But of course, this requires much more than a one-man show. I have an amazing team of professionals here in Canada and elsewhere in the world who help me deliver this vision of an incredible experience to you. The most important person for you to know is our lead trip specialist, Paula Sarnik. She will be the one who will likely entertain your first phone call or your email when you're interested in learning more about our trips, and the one who will answer all your questions and make sure that you get signed up for the trip that is right for you. Today, I'm going to be taking you on a brief tour around these incredible Scandinavian countries, consistently rated with the world's highest standards of living, right up there with Canada. And so it's what makes this trip particularly interesting is that we are, we're exploring some of the ways, some of the similarities between Canada and Scandinavia. We're both in the north. We both have winter, get cold. We both have high taxes. But at the same time, there's obviously a lot to learn about their culture, their approach to life in the north, as it were, but also the socioeconomic factors that are very different in Scandinavia than in Canada. And this is all we're going to learn about on this trip. As I always like to do, I would like to just show you a little bit of the geography of where we are going. Of course, you'll know that Scandinavia are the countries in the northernmost part of Europe. We're going to begin this journey in the capital of Denmark, which is Copenhagen. beautiful city that is on the Øresund Strait. That's the body of water that connects the North Sea to the Baltic Sea. After some days exploring Copenhagen as well as the nearby towns of Dragør and Helsingør, we will embark on a train for a wonderful journey all through the Swedish countryside. So, all the way up from Copenhagen, crossing the Øresund Strait and the magnificent bridge up to Stockholm. We will then be in Sweden's capital for the next 5 nights, exploring what this remarkable city, which is really built on an archipelago of islands. It's a fascinating place. It's probably my favorite of the 3 cities on this trip, even though I love them all and I like to travel there whenever I can. And from Stockholm, then we are going to take an overnight ferry across the Baltic Sea, coming into Helsinki in the morning, where we will spend the last 5 nights of our trip exploring the capital of Finland. Finland is a country of many, many lakes, most of which are sort of further to the north in the central part of the country, but the coastline is really spectacular. And Helsinki itself has, the people are very laid back, particularly compared to their Swedish and Danish neighbors. And of course, there's a lot of interesting culture there, like saunas, that we will learn a little bit about, maybe partake in. We then have a post-trip extension, which takes us on one more leg across the Baltic for a short ferry ride, high-speed ferry down to Tallinn, which is the capital of Estonia, a charming little country in the Baltics. And what amazes me about Estonia is, it is a tech center. It is kind of like the Silicon Valley of Northern Europe. A lot of tech companies set up there. So you have a beautiful old town, but you also have, modern skyscrapers and technology. I always say that they're, 20 years ahead of us in Estonia compared to Canada. And so a lot of people don't realize that. It makes it a very interesting spot. So let's now jump into the day by day itinerary. I'll give you a few of the highlights and the things that we are going to be doing along the way over the 15 nights that we will be in the Scandinavian capitals. I'm going to take a quick word to talk about weather. This is the highest season, the best time to visit the Scandinavian capitals because it's midsummer. In fact, the 21st of June, obviously the summer equinox or the summer solstice, is the longest day of the year. Being as far north as we are here, you have very, very long days. You have daylight that goes until after 10 o'clock at night. So it's really a great time of the year. The weather in Scandinavia, well, similar to Canada. I mean, it can get warm. It can get into the mid-20s. Seldom that it gets much warmer than that, but the evenings do tend to be cool. Usually in the high teens, but the weather is generally good. You might get a spot of rain now and again, but this is really the perfect time to be going to witnessing what life is like in Scandinavia in the middle of summer. So the first leg of our trip begins in Copenhagen, as I mentioned, the capital of Denmark. This is a pretty easy city to get to. We have nonstop flights from Toronto to Copenhagen. So of course you can fly from other parts of Canada through Toronto to get there, or failing which there are connecting flights on the major carriers, Lufthansa, Air France, KLM, from major cities in Canada via their hubs, Frankfurt, Amsterdam, Munich, Paris, to bring you into Copenhagen. Arriving into the city of Copenhagen, you'll be met at the airport, which is very close to downtown, connected by an incredible transit system. Of course, public transit is one of the things that works so well in all of the Scandinavian cities. And we're going to be staying right down adjacent to the main square, the City Hall Square of Copenhagen. It's literally about 100 meters away from our hotel, so super well situated. It's also a short walk from the railway station, which makes it very easy to get around, not only within Copenhagen, but with connections to all over Denmark. Not that we're going to be having a lot of time to explore all other parts of Denmark, as much as nice as that would be, but the location is really perfect. A lot of the center streets in Copenhagen are pedestrianized, particularly Strøget, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. If you're Danish and I said that the wrong way, I apologize, but it is one of the longest pedestrian retail streets in Europe, and winds all the way through the old part of town. All of that is within the doorstep. And of course, when we arrive, we'll gather and have time to just sort of stretch our legs or rest up from the long flight over, and we'll all meet together for the first time and enjoy a little cocktail or something to welcome and begin our trip in Denmark. We're going to be in day two in our first full day in Copenhagen by having a wonderful little tour around the city. Most of this will be on foot because, like with many cities in Europe, this is the best way to get around, but you never know. We might hop on a tram or take the metro again. As I mentioned, they have a great transit system over there, and we're going to walk all around both the old parts of the city as well as some of the new parts of the city. And particularly when you walk around the inner harbor, where ships come in off the Øresund Strait, which, as I say, connects the North Sea and the Baltic Sea. You get a lot of very modern buildings. But here in the center, for example, this is what's known as Nyhavn in the picture, is one of the most popular areas, particularly in the late afternoons and evenings, and you can see all the tables and chairs out. Even though the summer season in Denmark is relatively short, much as it is in Canada, people do enjoy being outside as much as possible, and it's a very lively city in that regard. We're going to wander around, visit Amalienborg Palace, which is, of course, the house, the home of the Danish royal family. And as you may know, they got a new king. Queen Margaret II abdicated the throne, one of the first time in hundreds of years that a European monarch has abdicated at the end of last year. And her son, King Frederick, took over the throne and is now the King of Denmark. So, a very interesting story and very sort of timely in the context of our visit. The next day, we're going to head out of town, not far away. It's about a 30-minute drive into one of the little quiet suburban settlements. This is known as Dragur, which is actually right on the strait itself. In fact, there's a great vista of the Øresund Bridge, which we're going to cross later when we head to Copenhagen. This is a stunning little town consisting of a whole bunch of colorful houses. It's a former fishing village. And in fact, they still do some fishing on the Øresund. We'll wander around the streets and we'll get a bit of an insight from our local guide about what life in rural Denmark is sort of all about. Now, this isn't very rural anymore. This is really on the outskirts of Copenhagen. So people here will obviously easily commute into town. But nevertheless, it gives a bit of a insight into some of the history here. There were This town was particularly known for the efforts of the local village people to rescue Danish Jews who were suffering during World War II, and so because of all of the shipping traffic that passed through the Øresund Strait. Another great site here that's always a favorite is an incredible view of the Øresund Bridge, which we're going to cross later in the trip when we make our journey from Copenhagen up to Stockholm. The next day in the morning, we are going to jump on a Danish train and head up to the north to the little town of Helsingør. Now, Helsingør sits at the narrowest point of the Øresund Strait, which, as I've mentioned over and over again, this is the body of water that separates Denmark from Sweden and where all ships have to pass that are going into the Baltic Sea. It's a charming little town. Its most famous landmark, of course, is the Kronborg Castle that you can see featured here, otherwise known and affectionately known as the Hamlet's Castle. So we'll have time to tour around the city itself and, of course, the castle, which is the main attraction, the main highlight, with some great vistas looking out over the strait. You'll see ships passing by, and you'll have plenty of time to sort of roam around and explore the castle and the town. And then we have it set up so you can go back to Copenhagen on your own if you want to spend a little bit more time. I know when I last visited with a group, there's a lovely little aquarium there as well that we stopped at. We had lunch at this square by the pier. All in all, it's a lovely way to enjoy a little bit of a smaller town in Denmark. I should note that each day we spend a couple of hours or a few hours traveling around with our local guide who's going to show us around, but we've included sufficient time to go and explore other things in the city. And there really is so much to see, which is why it's important in this sojourn style of travel that we do that we allow lots of time for you to explore on your own. And therefore, it's also important to do a little bit of research, do a little bit of Googling, a little bit of reading some travel books about what these cities have to offer, because I find that there's always something, some form of art or a cultural tradition, or it could be a brewery. Copenhagen, of course, has is the home of Tuborg, among other beers, and the brewery visit there is truly amazing. So whether it's somebody that's into beer or you're into culture and dance, make sure that you take the time to figure out what it is that you like to do. Nevertheless, we are then going to depart uh, after 5 days in Denmark to head to Stockholm. As I mentioned, the train station is a stone's throw from our hotel. We'll be heading over there and hopping on a long distance train that connects Denmark, the capital cities of Copenhagen and Stockholm. It's a great train ride. I've had the pleasure of doing it a couple of times. As I say, you head across the Öresund Strait and all the way through southern Sweden, so you'll get a great vistas of the landscapes of southern Sweden, which will be reminiscent to those from southern and central Ontario of the landscape there. In fact, if you close your eyes, you'll think, "Wow, this looks so much like home." The flora, the fauna, the geology, and so on. And so, some hours later in the early afternoon, we will pull into Stockholm's main station. Once again, we're staying a short walk away from the train station, and we'll already get a great sense of what awaits us in Stockholm. Our local guide is going to pick us up in the morning of our sixth day of our trip to show us around the town. Stockholm is a city that is spread over a series of islands adjacent to the mainland, and we're actually going to be staying in the more modern downtown part adjacent to the railway station, but very close walking distance to some of the islands like Gamla Stan, which is actually where the old town is. It's where the royal palace is, and it's just across from Södermalm as well as Östermalm and the Djurgården, which is a park. I'll talk about that in a second, where we will visit the incredible Vasa Museum. One of the highlights that we're going to see, though, today is the Stockholm City Hall, which is here in the center of the picture. It's quite a remarkable building, open to the public. We're able to go in and tour around, and its most famous aspect of this place is that this is where the Nobel Prizes are handed out each year. Not the Nobel Peace Prize, mind you, which is in Oslo, so we have to join our Norway trip to see that place. But here at the Stockholm City Hall is again remarkable location that all of the Nobel Prizes are handed out. Part of what I love most about Stockholm is, again, its location amongst all these islands in this so-called Stockholm archipelago. And so we're going to take a trip out and visit some of that. We'll embark on a local ferry that, again, is a walking distance from our hotel, and we will weave through all of these islands that, again, will be somewhat reminiscent of central Ontario, the area around Georgian Bay or Muskoka. There's lots of rocks. You get a little bit of a sense of it from the picture here, but these colorful little towns and villages where people live that form part of the suburban area of Stockholm, and people will commute in and out from many of these villages. We're going to head out to the outer edge to a little village called Sandhamn. We visited it before. It's kind of the last stop of the archipelago before it opens up to the Baltic Sea. And I recall when we went last time, some of us even took a dip in the Baltic Sea. It's chilly, but nevertheless, there's a lovely sand beach, and it's a lovely way to spend part of a day. We'll return back by mid-afternoon with ample time to enjoy some of the sights, sounds, smells, and tastes of Stockholm on our own for the evening. We'll have the better part of the day on our eighth day in Stockholm to explore more of the city on our own. So we'll have a whole morning and early afternoon at leisure. Be lots of things that you can partake in. And by the late afternoon, we will head to the ferry port. From here, we'll join on one of the giant ferries that connect Sweden and Finland, and where many, both Swedish and Finnish people, will go back and forth over the weekends. It's a very popular thing to do, partly because when the ship leaves port, it is considered to be in international water, so in a duty-free zone. So there is, inexpensive or less expensive sort of beverages that are available, and this is a very popular thing to do. The crossing will take overnight, so we'll again depart later part of the afternoon. So we'll still enjoy sailing all the way through a different part of the Stockholm archipelago before we reach the Baltic Sea, and we will make another stop at some islands that are part of Sweden in the middle of the night. And then in the morning, we'll be greeted by our arrival passing the Suomenlinna fortress coming into Helsinki. After we disembark at Helsinki's ferry port, which is right in the center of town, we're going to be met by our local guide and brought to our hotel to get to know this amazing capital of Finland. Since we have the whole day to explore, having uh, taken the night on board the ship, we will immediately meet our guide and walk around and take in some of Helsinki's amazing architecture. There's a couple of things here that are particularly memorable to me. One of them is the what they call the Temple Yoko church, a rock church that was blasted literally out of solid rock. And so the whole walls of the church are rock, and it's got sort of a vaulted ceiling with a cathedral ceiling. An amazing spot, incredible acoustics. Maybe if we're lucky when we visit there, somebody will be playing some music, because you can imagine they have some concerts in there. An amazing spot. And another thing that really impressed me about Helsinki, and you'll see, I mean, from these pictures here, you get a sense of this sort of the classic architecture, similar in some ways in style to what you'll find, what we'll have seen in Sweden and in Denmark. But at the same time, they are also very progressive in some of their architecture. And one of those is the Udi Library. And I walked into this public library and I thought, oh my God, every public library in the world should be like this place, because not only it is a library, which is fully automated, you have little robots that run around and put books back on the shelf. But they have all kinds of other facilities that would be like the most modern co-working space. They've got recording studios, they've got test kitchens, they've got, of course, areas where you can do printing, including 3D printing. It was one of those places that everybody was just in shock by what incredible facilities existed in this public library. There's a bunch of other spots that we'll visit along the way, including the magnificent white cathedral, which is Helsinki's landmark. So we're going to be spending a very special day in Helsinki, which is midsummer. And midsummer is the longest day of the year, the summer solstice, as I mentioned. And of course, the whole city, if it's not already lively in summer, it really comes to life on midsummer. We'll have a whole morning at leisure to explore some of Helsinki on our own. So you can sort of have a relaxing morning. Again, a great place to just walk around and admire the streets and the different architecture and the cafes. And they have a wonderful market down by the harbor. But by the mid-afternoon, actually, we're going to meet and right adjacent to the main market that is on the harbor, they have a Ferris wheel. And this Ferris wheel is called the Sky Wheel Helsinki. We will have reserved a cabin on this. And so we're going to have a special little event and ceremony as we go up and have a beautiful view overlooking downtown Helsinki, the Suomenlinna fortress. And then later on in the afternoon, we're going to head to Surasali Island. It's one of the islands that forms the archipelago that is along the coast of Helsinki. And here we will join the festivities, the huge festivities that they have every year at this time. And we will celebrate in classic Finnish style the midsummer, the longest day of the year. It's going to be a lot of fun, and probably we're going to be up a little bit later at night because, of course, the sun stays up until quite late at night. It's a fun day. The next morning, maybe not too early, depending on how late we stayed up the night before to celebrate midsummer, we're going to embark on a little drive along the coast towards the east, actually in the direction of Russia, but we're not going quite that far, of course, to head to the little town of Porvo. Porvo is the second largest city in Finland, actually dates back to the latter part of the 14th century and is one of six medieval towns around Finland. What I find particularly interesting about it is all the little colorful houses that are all along the Porvo River. It's an art town, as you could kind of imagine it would be. It's not far from Helsinki, but a lot of people will come out here for a weekend drive to try out the little cafes and explore the little galleries. So it's a lovely place to spend part of a day. We'll have lunch here, then we'll embark on a steamship and make a lovely little voyage back to Helsinki, again, passing this wonderful coastline and archipelago that southern Finland is so well known for. On our last full day in Helsinki, we're going to head just across the harbor by ferry to the island of Suomenlinna. Suomenlinna is actually the name of the sea fortress, which comprises a total of 8 islands that are just across the harbor from downtown Helsinki. Built back in the middle part of the 18th century, this played a vital role in the defense of Finland against outside invaders, all the way up until the beginning of the 19th century when the Russians came in and took over, and were in place for the better part of 100 years until the Russian Revolution, of course, in the early part of the 20th century, when Finland became finally a fully independent nation. And this fortress was still used then, obviously, in its defense through the First and Second World War. So a lot of history here, a lovely place to wander around. As you can see, the old bastions that are at the edge of the island in the photograph here. So we'll get a tour around this UNESCO World Heritage Site from our local guide. And again, we'll have plenty of time to just relax, visit some cafes. There's lots of little spots on the island to just hang out. And it's a great way to spend a good part of the last day of our adventure. We then have to pay a sad farewell to Scandinavia and our trip through these wonderful capitals for those who are just interested in the main trip. We'll, of course, bring you back to the airport for your onward flight home or perhaps to another destination. But I would highly recommend joining us for our post trip extension, which will take us across the narrow part of the Baltic here to Estonia. We've had a number of comments from members who've joined us to Estonia previously who said that that was actually their favorite stop on the trip. And I just want to make one more additional note, which is that the order of sites we will see and the activities that I've mentioned may switch around a bit between the time of this recording of the webinar and the actual trip. But everything I've talked about will take place, but the final agenda will get sent out to participants on this trip about a month before departure. And this actually applies to all of our trips because sometimes due to scheduling, we have to make some last minute changes. For those continuing on, Estonia is not far away. It's only about a couple hours ferry ride, and we arrive in the capital city of Tallinn. Once we arrive, we're going to get picked up again, of course, at the beautiful and modern ferry pier of Tallinn, and we will be whisked off to our hotel very close to the old town, which is a very walkable city. Wandering around, we'll go up to the upper city because the old town of Tallinn is divided into upper and lower towns. You've got on top the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral, which you can see up here at the top of the old town. And just below that, all of the winding streets where you can really get a sample of some wonderful Estonian restaurants, marzipan shop that's one of my favorites every time I go to Tallinn. I visit there. The Dome Church, which is over here, is another famous site that we'll see. And you'll really get a sense of how life is like in this country that has obviously changed a lot in the 30 years since the fall of the Soviet Empire, under which uh, Estonia was obviously a part during all that time. The next day, we're going to head out and take in a little bit of the beautiful countryside of Estonia and enjoy something that Estonians do on a very regular basis. Estonia is actually quite a flat country, and a good chunk of the overall surface area is covered in bogs. And in fact, a lot of the peat that is extracted from the bogs is one of their main exports from Estonia. But what's nice about this wonderful countryside is that they have developed it into beautiful outdoor recreation areas with boardwalks that take you deep into the bog, and you can stop on one of these boardwalks. They've got designated spots for swimming. And I know that I remember the first time I went to Estonia, I thought, you've got to be crazy to swim in a bog, what we would consider a swamp, although they're not the same thing. And participating in bog swimming, I think, is actually an incredible experience to swim in these very organic, rich waters. They think and believe that it is very good for the body and for the skin to swim in a bog, which is why you'll often find Estonians on a summer day out doing this very activity. We'll have a bit of time on our last day in Tallinn to explore the city on our own. And then around lunchtime, hopefully, we will have saved up our appetite enough to enjoy a food excursion. Um, in Tallinn, cuisine, Estonian cuisine is influenced by so many different directions because, of course, there is a lot of ties to Finland. A lot of people from Finland come over and have always come over. So you get that sense of Finnish cuisine with the wild game and meats that often form part of the dishes. But there's obviously a lot of Russian influence. I mean, let's face it, Estonia is still 30% Russian speaking, most of whom live in the easternmost part of the country. And then there's the influences from their Baltic neighbors to the south, Latvia and Lithuania. And so all of these come together and make it quite a culmination of rather delicious food. And so we'll go, and I think this will be, well, there's so many highlights, but I think sampling the food of Estonia, something that most of us are not otherwise familiar with, will be a terrific way to enjoy and really get a bit of an insight into Estonian culture. Our trip will wrap up here. And of course, those that are interested in exploring a little bit more of the region are welcome to book a few more nights, stay on in Tallinn, and perhaps travel to one of other Estonia's other beautiful cities like Pärnu in the south, or Tartu, the university capital of Estonia, or otherwise make arrangements and continue your journey or fly back to Canada. I hope that this overview has given you a bit of an insight as to what you can expect from our trip through the Scandinavian capitals and, of course, Estonia. But, of course, if you do have any questions at all, or if you just like to talk to someone about whether this trip is right for you, if there's any nuances that you can't find by looking on our website or through that detailed trip itinerary that you'll find on our website. And by the way, you'll find a link to those in the description box below this video. But please do drop us a note, drop an email to our office. There's an email address there for Paula, and set up a call, and we'd be delighted to chat with you to make sure that you have all your questions answered, and hopefully to decide to join us on this amazing trip. Thanks for tuning in to this webinar today about our Scandinavian Capitals program. If you like this idea of webinars, if you watch them regularly and aren't already subscribed, you can hit the subscribe button, which is just below this video. And that way, every time I post a new webinar about one of our trips, then you'll be informed and can be among the first to view it. Similarly, if you have come across this other than through our newsletter and would like to join our community, we'd love to have you. All you need to do is visit our website and click join our newsletter, and we send out just one newsletter every week. We don't bombard you with information and ads, and that keeps you in the loop on all the great things that are going on here at Wheel and Anchor. So hope to see you on a trip sometime. In the meantime, take care and happy travels.